Continuing with chapter 8, verse 8. And after he has sprinkled, Aaron is supposed to sprinkle the ashes of the para aduma on them, and also shave all their hair and immerse their garments in order to purify them. And then it says, we saw also yesterday, actually we're past verse 8, that he was supposed to take two bowls, one for an olah, one for a sin offering, and this is unusual because the sin offering is not eaten, and then bring the verse 9. That's where we got up to. V'kravta salaviyim v'nei Hashem, and then you're supposed to bring all. Aaron is supposed to bring all the Levites before God. V'samchu b'nei Yisrael sideim al ragleihem, and all of Israel was supposed to place their hands on the Levites. Meaning to say, because the Levites were giving, we said this Rashi yesterday, Levites were given as an atonement offering for the golden calf. And so they're all going to come and stand. Everybody's going to come and put their hands on them as though the Levites are the offering. And now this is the verse that's so
but
interesting.
Maybe it was just the representatives?
No, it seems like it says you shall bring all of the Levites.
Yes. And then no, I'm saying for the Israelites, sorry, 600,000 men on 22,000 Levites sounds a little bit, I don't know. I don't want to say a bad word. It just sounds.
Well, let's see what the verse says. Yeah. So let's look at the next verse, which is even more provocative. It says, the verse says, "Ve'ini Pharaoh as alaviyim tinufal lefnei Hashem." And Aaron shall wave the Levites as a Levite offering before God, me'et b'nei Israel. Ma'yu avodas avodas Hashem. So Aaron was supposed to wave the Levites as an offering before God. So Aaron was supposed to wave them, and then they'll be able to serve. What does it mean to wave them? Rashi says, "Kederach sha'asham mitzorat ha'un tenufa chai." Just like the offerings of the asham and the mitzorah that they are required to be waved while they're alive, so too the Levite was supposed to be waved. What does it mean to wave the Levite? Pick him up and wave him, yeah, like you wave the lulav and the etrog. It's pretty heavy. Like some Levites, are small. But Aaron was 83 years old at this point, or maybe 84 at this point. So it's an intense thing. Rashi says, Shalosh tenufot ne'amru b'parasha zu. This passage has three wavings. Rishono of Kahas. The first was the sons of Kahas, as it states, Vayu avodas avodas Hashem. And they'll be able to serve Hashem. The work of carrying the Holy of Holies is upon them. Aaron v'Shulchan, the ark and the table. The second is for the sons of Gershon. Therefore it states, to Nufal Hashem. And then the third was for the sons of Merari. So all the Levites were waved. And the Levites will place their hands on the heads of the bulls, so all the Levites, presumably, all the Levites will place their hands to be an atonement. You shall put the Levites before Aaron and before his son. By this time, Aaron has two sons left, and wave them as a wave offering to God. And by doing this, you're going to separate the Levites from the children of Israel, and the Levites will be for me. And afterwards, the Levites will come to the Ol Moed. Then the Levites will come to the Ol Moed, and then you'll purify them. And then it seems like you're waving them a second time. That's intense. I mean,
Maybe they jumped, like to take the physical pressure off the person doing the waving. Like, you sort of give them a lift.
like just symbolic,
No,
like symbolic, like,
somebody like jumped, like when they had to go, like they gave assistance to the person. It wasn't just like they were lifting and deadlifting them off the floor. Who knows what it was? It seems like it says that it requires a lot of physical strength, and it seems,
is that what it says there in the,
yes.
what does he say? Please read it.
He just says that it requires physical, similar to an offering, the Levites were bestowed with a special status, which they had to go preparatory rites parallel to those of an offering. Just as the priest waived parts of a certain offering, so Aaron was commanded to waive the Levites. This was a difficult procedure that required great physical strength. And you said he was very old, 83 at that point. So how many Levites were there that he had to waive?
Well, that's
About
the thing.
8,500.
There were, well, that's if he waived, no. There were 22,000 Levites. So it doesn't say that he only waived the ones who are between the ages of 30 and 50. Where do you see that? If he waived all of them, it will be 22,300.
In last week's parsha, it says that the ones that
Yeah.
were working in the
Yeah.
tabernacle were about
Yeah, but it
8,500.
doesn't say he only waived those. Makes it sound here like he waived all of the Levites because he has to inaugurate all of them to be Levites.
It's very easy to pick up 3-year-old.
Theoretically, it could be easy. By the way, it's not so easy to pick up a 3-year-old. Depends on the 3-year-old. And secondly, it's just an enormous amount of time. If you're going to 22,000 people, how many people can he wave a minute? So let's say he could do 2 a minute, which is, we're talking insane. That's not possible. If I had to wave the 3 of you around the table, it would take me. And now how many minutes are there in a day? There's 60 minutes in an hour.
It's 24.
Yeah, so what's 60 times 24?
Be doing it for 24 hours.
What's 60 times 24? Well, whatever, it's like 1,200. Well, what?
1,200.
Yeah, it's like around 12, whatever it is.
It's 1,440.
So 14, oh, that's our address. Yeah, our address is the number of minutes in a day.
1440.
Yeah, so then we go to so at that point,
There's no indicator that this was a nace of sorts.
but it
This
was.
Right, but nobody's trying to say it was a nace, that there was all these people, that there had to be so little time to do that.
I think it's an underrated miracle of the Bible. People don't talk about it enough. Okay, so anyway, so oh, so and then you'll separate them, and then then verse 16. And afterwards, the Levites will come to serve in the Ol Moed, and you purify them and you'll weigh them. So it's not 100% clear to me from the text if Aaron waved them once or twice. But let's assume it was once, even though the verse seems to imply it twice.
Rashi said 3 times.
No, Rashi said there were 3 wavings that were mentioned, and that's to refer to.
So once for each son of Levi.
Right, so each one, Rashi seems to imply that each one was only waved once, but it was done at different times. The Gershon Kasamer. Okay, that answers that, yeah. But that's implying, the reason why Rashi has to give that forced explanation is because the text seems to be saying there were multiple wavings. Okay, and then the verse says, they are given to me. Rashi says twice, they're given for carrying and given for song. They have 2 main functions. One was to sing and one was to carry. Tachas pitras kol racham b'chor kol b'mnei Yisrael akafti osamri. In place of the firstborn of children of Israel, I've taken them for myself. Kiwi kol b'chor, because every firstborn is to me amongst the children of Israel. Ba'adamu be'ema, by a human and animal. V'yom hakosi kol b'chor b'eretz Mitzrayim. I had taken the firstborns for me amongst human and animals when I struck down all the firstborns. B'eretz Mitzrayim mikdash assembly. I sanctified them. Verse 17. Shelo yayu b'choros. The firstborn were mine. B'kav din. By the standards of justice. She'aganti aleim ben b'chorei Mitzrayim. I defended them from amongst the firstborns of Egypt. I took them to myself. Until they sinned with the golden calf. And now I'll take the Levites. Okay. So basically, Hashem is the one who took the firstborn, and now Hashem is taking the Levites. Get rid of the firstborn. Verse 18. I'll take the Levites in place of all the firstborn. Anybody here a firstborn? 18. Right now, so Aaron, and I'll give the Levites to Aaron. So let's say it's possible, by the way, even though I never saw this explanation amongst the commentaries, it's possible that Aaron didn't do all the wavings. Maybe his sons helped him. So maybe split up amongst three.
And here, two of them died.
Maybe it went on over several days, but the text implies that it was one day. And I'll give to the Levites to Aaron and to his children. To atone for the children of Israel. So that there will not be a plague when they come to the temple. Meaning to say, if they approach without doing this, there will be a plague. So Rashi says 5 times it mentions Bnei Yisrael in this passage, in this verse. In verse 19, does it say Bnei Yisrael 5 times? Bnei Yisrael, Bnei Yisrael, Bnei Yisrael, Bnei Yisrael, Bnei Yisrael. 5 times in this one verse it mentions Bnei Yisrael. That's a trivia question. What's the most times Bnei Yisrael is mentioned in one verse in the Torah? Right here.
Someone comes up to you and puts a gun in your head and asks you that question.
Well, yeah, let's drop the gun reference. But other than that, yeah. So Rashi says, this was L'odiach Hibasan Shenikpulu as Kurosem B'Mikra Echad Kaminyan Chamisha Chum Shetorah. That their names were mentioned 5 times, corresponding to the 5 books of the Torah. The footnote here says a similar comment regarding the 5 appearances of the word or light in Genesis chapter 1 verses 3 through 5 is found in Bereshit Rabbah. Okay. Vayas Moshe va'aram v'kol das b'nei Yisrael avim k'chol asher tziva Hashem es Moshe avim kein asu b'nei Yisrael. And thus Moshe and Aaron did. Yeah, it says right here in the verse that it was just Aaron who did it, not his sons. And Aaron, Moshe and Aaron and all the children of Israel did to the Levites just like Hashem commanded the Levites. Kein asu b'nei Yisrael. So too the children of Israel did. Oh, here Rashi tells us exactly how it happened. Why did I forget this? Moshe, here, Seth, this answers your question. Moshe ha'amidan, Moshe positioned them. Aaron hanifam, Aaron waved them. V'Yisrael samchu es yedeihem, and then the Bnei Israel leaned their hands upon them. This is pretty incredible. That's what happened. Vayislatu alavim, and the Levites were purified. Vayachabsu bigdeihem. They washed their garments. Vayanaf Aaron osam tenufal of Hashem. And Aaron waved them as an offering before God. I don't usually do this because we're only studying Rashi here now, but it's such a Aaron with Aaron, and afterwards Aaron came to purify them. Let me just check here the beautiful commentary I have here. This anthology called Iturei Torah, which is one of my favorite books in the world. And so many passages to discuss here. And it says, Here. Let's see if they comment on this. No. No, it doesn't say anything. Oh. Interesting. I see the Meshech Chochmah says, in this passage, the Bnei Yisrael appears 13 times to tell us that they were worthy to be destroyed after the sin of the golden calf, but the Levites were zealous for God's name, and they atoned for God through the 13 attributes. Okay. That's very interesting. Okay, but anyway, I've been looking for years for a deeper explanation of this waving, just how it was possible. If anybody finds anything to discuss the waving, please let me know. Okay. Verse 22. And then afterwards, the Levites came to serve before Aaron and his children. Just like God had commanded Moshe for the Levites, so too they did to them. The verse Rashi says, so nobody resisted. Not God, not Moses, not Aaron, and not the Bnei Israel, not the Levites.
What about the first one?
They didn't have any ritual here, but they might have resisted. It doesn't, we do see their resistance later on in Parshas Korach. They seem to be part of the resistance.
Because they lost their power.
The tribe of Reuben, at least. Verse 23. This will be the task of the Levites from 25 years old and up. They will come to serve at Olam Moed. So this is interesting. Rashi says the Levites, unlike the Kohanim, Shanim Poslim Bahem, Ve'ena Mumim Poslim Bahem. The Levites are a defect is their age. They're aged out of their job, whereas they're not aged out by a physical blemish. The Kohanim are the opposite. The Kohanim are not aged out by their years, but they are aged out by physical blemishes. So the Kohanim and Levites are opposite in that respect. There's a lot of physical requirements to be a Kohen, like physical inconsistencies that will cause them to be removed from their position. Yes, Akiva.
Could a Kohen become a Levi? Like, could he, let's say he gets a blemish, he can't be a Kohen anymore. Can he serve as a Levi because he's technically a Levi?
No, it has to be a Kohen. He can't do the job of the Levi.
Because you give him the Levi Aliyah.
No, that's only if there's no Levi. We give the Kohen two aliyos in a row, so that we're worried otherwise that somebody will call us another Kohen after him and will think that the first one wasn't a Kohen. So therefore we give it to him two in a row. Rashi says from 25 years of age. And in last week's parasha it said, or maybe 2 weeks ago, it says, Ben Shloshim Shana, the Levi serves from 30 to 50. Okay, that's the case. From 25 years old, he comes to study how to serve. He studies for 5 years. Ben Shloshim Oved, and 30 he serves. Mikan, from here, the Gemara states that Talmud Shalora Siman Yafa b'Mishnasa b'Chamesh Shanim Shuvei Noro. If there's a student, he spent 5 years studying something, he hasn't figured it out, drop that topic, go on to something else.
Only after 5 years.
That's what it says.
But Rashi is implying drop the student, not drop the topic.
Rashi says,
I said implies, I don't know.
Rashi doesn't say that he should drop it. He doesn't tell the student to drop it. He doesn't tell the teacher to drop it. It just says the student's never gonna get it. But he doesn't say he should stop. He still gets the reward for studying and teaching. He just won't be. He won't be successful at it.
So I'll try to be a little bit political, Rabbi. The idea that today there's over 40,000 men who are studying Torah instead of working and supporting their families, and from this Rashi, it seems that that's not appropriate, meaning that they if they don't really want to learn, they should do what they're supposed to do according to Jewish law.
I mean, I know that this is a very, very difficult situation in Israel. People who live in Israel whose sons are serving and being killed are very, 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 very upset with people who live in Israel and don't serve. Very upset. And it's hard to it's hard not to see their perspective. On the other hand, I personally haven't served in the armed forces, so I'm not in the Israeli armed forces, so I'm not going to be critical of those who don't serve. But I do think that if you live in Israel, you have an absolute biblical commandment to serve in the armed forces, for sure. Okay. The next verse states, at 50 years old, you're going to come back. You're done. You retire at 50. That's pretty good. I'm about to be 50. The one of the men who was killed on Shabbos, his name was Elon Meir. He was 49. Maybe it was Elon Weiss. I forget exactly. He was 49 years old, and he still served. But I don't think you don't have to serve at that age. He was a major. He wanted to serve. Rashi
says they're not done. Actually.
Oh, Rashi says right. You're right. He stops doing the heavy labor. When he locks the gates. He still sings. Don't worry if you're the chazan and you're 50, you haven't lost your job yet. He loads the wagons. And this is what it means. V'sheres es achav. He serves his brothers. Imachoi ketargumo, as the Targum renders it.
It was interesting because Steinsaltz compares all three. He said that the Israelites have to be soldiers from 20 to 60. So that's the Israelites have the longest and probably the most demanding of them all. Then the Levium.
Well, they're in the army.
25 to 50, but then they still work doing less strenuous jobs. And then the Kohanim, who have the life thing unless they get a physical blemish, and then I don't know what happens to them.
Well, then they had other jobs there were other things they could do, but they were not doing they weren't the main attraction. Like they could be picking out the wood and getting rid of the wormy wood. Gemara talks about that. But the Levites, even though they served from 25 to 50, they're really only serving from 30 to 50, because from 25 to 30, they were just in training.
They also, Steinsaltz said they could have been replacements if they needed. So they were ready replacements. They were like ready off the bench.
Ramban says that they do start serving at 25, but they're not allowed to be in charge. They're allowed to help out, but they are learning, but they're like actually doing things as well.
So they're
Ezra says that the 25-year-olds do the service of transporting. No, they don't do the service of transporting. They can do the transporting, but they do things in the actual, like, I don't know.
Seems like they were still pretty active 20, 25, and 30, even though they're not.
I mean, it would be hard to understand that from 25 to 30 did nothing, because those are persons in their prime.
Right.
But
it's like a wasted a long time to do a lot of training to do the same thing that they're gonna be doing. But I don't know. It's interesting.
Okay, and then the verse
Were they
20,
mostly like doing carbonos all day?
the Levites didn't bring sacrifices. The Levites did two things, two main things. They were carrying the stuff, they were singing, and when they were in the temple, when the base of Mikdash was built, the Levites were there to provide security. Now, there's a dispute amongst the commentaries. Was it actual physical security or just an honor guard, like, like,
Not sure.
like the national,
Ceremonial.
yeah, ceremonial honor guard, like the outside Buckingham Palace. Just an honor guard. So
Those guys are still pretty tough.
what?
The guys outside Buckingham Palace are still pretty tough.
Yeah, they're still pretty tough, but they're not the commandos.
Would they stop someone who's trying to break?
I don't know. I don't have no idea. I'm pretty sure they don't move, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a Haredi guy from Muncie that made them laugh, and that was against their rules.
That's right. I saw that. I've seen that. I've seen
What?
that.
How do they make them laugh?
That's.
They're not allowed to
I
laugh.
think he was like maybe speaking to them in yeshivas or something like that. He was like, yeah, me and him grew up together.
I'll send it to you later, Rabbi.
Wow. I don't know. I know people try to make them laugh, but I'm thinking like, why would you try to get somebody to mess up? He's got a serious job.
Yeah, talking about health.
Or let's just
The guards outside, keep them very, serious. Watching this YouTube video of a guy from Muncie who made one of them laugh.
that's his claim to fame. Made one of them laugh. Now that guy's ruined. His career is ruined.
I don't know that they're taking away his honor because some kid from Muncie made him laugh.
And then he'll serve his brothers in the Olam Moed. And he won't, but he doesn't do the service. That's the kohanim. That's what you should do for the Levites in their charge. So Rashi says, to camp around the Olam Moed, their job was to set it up and to take it down, at the time of the journeys. Okay, so, and now, it's so interesting. So we have all these discrete topics, and from here we go into one of the most interesting things, which is Pesach Sheni, that there's a second part. And then actually, also, I said it's so many topics. According to the Talmud, it's actually two separate books of the Torah. Like the whole parsha actually represents two different books of the Torah. There's really 7 books, and there's another passage here. All right. Anyway, we'll stop here so we could have a mincha.
Yes, Shukah.